you can't run from yourself, because I think that's what was happening in that story. She had to eventually deal with all that. In the process of doing that and solving kind of the more topical crimes in the book, she kind of understood herself better. And I think that's what I'm trying to do myself too.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. Okay, step into the interrogation room and get ready for a grilling, but don't worry, we'll go easy on best-selling crime writer Lisa Towles with a career that's taken her from corporate communications to scripting heart-stopping thrillers. Lisa has cracked the code on crafting addictive reads. Her Investigations Trilogy has won amazing reviews, multiple awards, and now she's using her platform to advocate for fellow authors. So we're going to be cross-examining Lisa on her writing process, her shift from the corporate world to life of literary crime, and her passion for the power of a well-told story. Lisa, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Of course. Yeah. I mean, as I was telling you before the episode started, I love chatting about crime. I think it's a really fun topic. Maybe not, fun really, but, interesting and it's invigorating, right? So it's going to be a fun conversation. But before we talk about your book, let's talk about you. I mean, as I mentioned, you did work in corporate communications. So how do you think that influences your writing? And how does that kind of, play a part in your books?
I think it definitely has an impact, maybe only an indirect impact, but I've been working in tech for almost 20 years, and I've been writing and publishing books. My first book was published in 2001. So the whole time that I've been working full time for these big Fortune 500 companies, I've been writing crime novels. And even though I don't set out to look at what technologies this company is producing, it kind of makes its way in there somehow. So I think in some ways, working in a conservative environment, because there are a lot of rules, regulations, best practices involved in working in corporate America. I think in some ways that made my fiction just kind of want to break out. And then in other ways, I think they sort of feed each other too. So I think it definitely had an effect one way or another.
Absolutely. I mean, I always advocate for the fact that authors do draw from their own experiences in one way or another. And so in this case, it kind of gave you that, the rigid, regulations and rules to follow, but also let you branch free and be a little bit creative with it, which is exactly what your books seem to do. So really awesome stuff. I'm curious to know then, as we just go into your book, Switch, this one actually has a lot to do with like quantum computing and fridge technology research. So that sounds really complicated to me. What exactly drew you to those particular subjects, and how much research did you have to do?
I do a lot of research for all my books. I mean, even if it's not necessarily tech, I think readers expect that fiction is going to be true to life. Even if you're making up kind of the scenario and the characters, I think readers generally expect that you're going to do like geographical navigational research to get that right. And if you're talking about a specific technology, that you're doing research that matches where that technology is right now in 2025. So for tech research, yes, I definitely have to do a lot of research and do it again and again and again, because when you write a first draft of a book, it might be 2 years until that book is actually published, and the tech could change. So, I mean, you have to kind of continuously be on the lookout for what those changes are. And quantum computing is one aspect of the story, and it's something that I'm very interested in, and I did a lot of research on it, and I also showed that part of the story to some people that are experts in that field, just to make sure that I got it right. And there were a couple of things that I had to come back and tweak and refine and clarify, and that was so helpful.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting to think about, though, the idea that technology does change. I mean, in the nonfiction world, it's so important that we keep things evergreen and, try to keep, people can always go back to and relate to it. But it's interesting because when it comes to fiction, I mean, you got to kind of ground it in, I guess, the time of the characters in that way. So, in a way, I guess it's kind of a benefit, right? Like, even if technology does change, well, your characters are, in the time that they're set in, right? But I do see how you have to kind of be up to date, make sure everything is in check.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. So yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit more about, the book itself then. Our protagonist, Mary Elwyn, is it? She has some very personal, decisions to make, a personal quest in this story of their father's disappearance. Tell our audience a little bit about what we should be expecting in this book, and why did you decide to reach such personal stakes for your season finale?
I think the high stakes was related to the fact that it is the third book in the series, and it's the final book in the series. There won't be any more. I mean, unless my characters inform me otherwise, which could happen, I guess. Um, but I think this is going to be the final one. I had a lot to tie up, and also I think a series generally has to serve as three standalone novels, because I can't ever expect that if a reader picks up Switch and look and reads the back cover and says, "Ooh, this sounds interesting. Why don't I wait 2 months and I'll go back and read the first two books first?" People don't do that. I mean, I've done it once in a while, but I think generally, if someone's interested in the premise of a book based on the back cover, they want to read that book. I mean, they might want to kind of deepen their knowledge of kind of the characterization and the story mythology by going back and reading the other two after that.
Right.
But in terms of Mari's kind of transformation arc in the story, she was really running from a lot. I mean, she had things about her childhood, about her family, about her former career in the CIA that she was running from. And I think creating her private investigation firm was a way of kind of, sort of turning over a new leaf and starting a new chapter of her life. And she linked up with Derek Abernathy as her partner, using kind of what she knew, having worked in the intelligence industry for a long time. And her partner Derek was a former detective, and so they were both bringing kind of considerable law enforcement chops with them to this new venture. But really, I think in a way she was trying to escape. I mean, like, she's an incredibly complicated and flawed character. She's a warrior, and she's incredibly heroic, and um, she's also really hobbled by everything she's running from in her life, by the things that she can't face or that she doesn't want to face, like loss, like the fact that her father wasn't around for her whole childhood and her resentment toward him. So she's got a lot of baggage, and it works its way into the story of in all three books, and it all just kind of comes to a head in the prologue of Switch, where she's finally sitting with her father across a table, having a nice quiet dinner after like 20 years. And I think her father probably thinks that it's going to be this wonderful poignant reunion, and she's just not having it. She
Mm.
it is not pretty. And that's how the book starts. And I wanted to start with that tension and that conflict to kind of let readers know this is what you're getting into, and this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, absolutely. Wow. So I guess Peters have a lot to kind of get into and unpack as they get more into the book and the series in general. It sounds like you do a lot of characterization in your books too, which I bring up from the reader's perspective and also the writer's perspective, because when you get invested in these characters like this, they're going through such situations like Mary is. I mean, that just draws us even more, right?
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that characterization process for you. Does it involve a lot of planning, or does it kind of just come from the heart? What's it like?
I think both of those things. Yeah, I think it's kind of half planning like a dedicated intentional effort to kind of craft a character that's going to be compelling to readers, that's going to be complicated enough, that's going to be kind of like weak and strong, and then also like you said, kind of taking a step back and listening and surrendering to what the character wants. I mean, the characters talk to me. I think every
Mm.
author would say that. So I think it's kind of both active and passive. And what I hope to come up with is what I find when I'm reading books. I'm sure you feel the same way as a reader too. You're looking to read about complex characters that are really going through some significant challenges to see what they're going to do. Like what superhero traits are they going to pull out of their toolbox that they didn't know they had, but just because the circumstances kind of backed them up against a wall and they had no choice, and they end up doing things that they never thought they were capable of doing. I think that happens all the time. I mean, it's happened to me. I see that pattern in movies, and that's something that I think is really interesting.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you said that, right? And you kind of draw from movies too, which is, always a good thing. I mean, people think movies are sort of separate from books and that's separate from music, but at the end of the day, they all do kind of intertwine, right? They're all different forms of medium and telling stories. So that's
Mhm.
great. They got some inspiration from that too.
Yep.
Um, Speaking of inspiration, what other, types of things do inspire you? Any certain, maybe other certain authors or movies in particular that kind of add inspiration to the concept behind these books?
Hmm. Wow, what a loaded question. So many books, so many movies inspire me.
Of
Um,
course.
I think I was really taken with the idea of crime investigation from a very early age. I always loved books as a child, but I loved mystery books. I loved books where like something goes wrong in the world. Someone has a personal stake in finding out what happened and why, and creating justice, creating balance somewhere in the world. This person did this. They might have killed someone, and that other character needs to know why they did what they did and to prove that they did it so that they can be brought to justice. So that the idea of justice, I think really compels me, but I think I'm most moved by psychological thrillers, I mean, because that really dig deep into a character that's broken from loss or from like loss of a career, loss of a loved one, like and kind of what happens to the personality when they get to that point, when they get to their lowest point. That's very interesting to me. I like those kinds of stories. I like those kinds of movies and those kinds of books.
Right. I think that's really great to say. And I'm sorry to kind of, spark a loaded question your way, but, it kind of just came to mind when you mentioned about things that do inspire you. Because again, all authors are inspired by something, right? We draw from other mediums and it helps
Yep,
get our creative juices flowing. So I
yep.
appreciate that. So we talked a little bit about, the book itself, some characterization. I guess I have to say, like, now that the trilogy is complete, I mean, at the end of the day, when readers, we get into all of it, what would you like readers to take away from all these the story itself, the character arcs, the journeys? Do you have a certain message that people should be holding on to as they move forward with it?
Hmm. I guess the resounding message of the ENA Investigations series, just thinking back on all three books, is that you you can't run from yourself.
Mm.
Like because I think that's what was happening in that story. I think Mari was running from herself, and there was a reckoning in the end, and she had to kind of come face to face with her nemesis and with her father and with the loss of her mother and kind of what family means to her, and she had to eventually deal with all that. And I think that's the overall message is in the process of doing that and solving kind of the more topical crimes in the book, she kind of understood herself better. And I think that's what I'm trying to do myself too.
I like that. Would you say the process of writing helped you to, come to terms and understand yourself a little bit too? I mean, kind of just to branch off of it.
I think so. Yeah, I think, on on the one hand, I've always sort of said that there's no such thing as fiction, but my dad was not a CIA agent like Mari's dad. I mean, so like the actual story is definitely fiction, but I mean, like you were saying earlier, I definitely draw on things in my own life, in my own experiences, my challenges, my disappointments, my heartbreak, my joys, my triumphs. I'm kind of churning all of that in, as well as, all of the books that I read and all the movies that I watch. And it's kind of like I take it all into the machine and like this is what comes out. But books about like complex crimes. That's just how it happens for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and kind of just drawing back to what we said before about, that creative process too. It all ties back together. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear that the process has been, so rewarding. But, going into process then perhaps is a good time for us to transition into, the writing process in particular. We talked a little bit about characterization, but, what about your daily writing routine? I mean, do you have any unique rituals, habits, patterns you follow on day to day?
Uh, um, right, right now, no. So right now I am editing a book that's going to be released next August, a standalone crime thriller, which is really by and large what I write more than anything else. I really write standalone crime thrillers. My three-book series, that was kind of a one-off. It just kind of happened, but really I write standalones. That book, The Weight of Cold Things, will be published in August, and I'm editing that, going through the second edit of that right now, and then I'll send it to my actual editor when I'm done with that. And I'm promoting Switch, and I'm also starting to write a brand new standalone thriller. I have kind of the premise worked out and the characters, and I have the prologue in the first chapter, and I haven't quite pressed the green button yet, but I have a lot of things in place, so I'm kind of excited about that. But I'm also a book coach, and I'm working with my coaching clients, and I'm also getting ready to publish a literary magazine in January, which I knew would be a big undertaking. I don't think I knew quite how much of an undertaking it would be. It's pretty much all consuming and it's a labor of love. I absolutely love it. And lifting up authors is just my passion and my mission. So I love doing it. But doing that and consulting and editing my current book, there's just not a lot of creative juice left for writing the book that I'm just so excited to start. I mean, I think maybe when the magazine is released in January, I'll have a little bit more space, or maybe over the holidays. But in terms of a daily writing practice, I am editing every day, but I'm not working on the new book, writing it every day yet. I wish I was, and that's what I aspire to do. So wish me luck.
Wish luck wished to you. And it's funny because when you ask somebody, what's your daily writing routine like? I mean, it's always different questions, but for you, it's so many things are going on, so many projects that it's mainly like finding time for the passion projects, the one you're really hoping to. So I think all authors can relate to that. We all want to to our project. We have to get through the work part of it first, right? The things that come prioritize. Um, yeah, so I appreciate you sharing that with us. So, you mentioned a little bit about these upcoming books. Can you share a little bit more about those? I mean, you have so many releases in the next like year or so, it sounds like. Is there one in particular that people should be, on the lookout for over others, do you think?
Um, the only one that's actually scheduled with my publisher is The Weight of Cold Thing. That's
Understood.
The Weight of Cold Things. That's going to be on August 7th. I
Yeah.
do have two other finished books that I haven't shown to my publisher yet, and they haven't been edited at all. And my books go through like 20, 30 rounds of edits, and so it's a really long process. So I don't have dates for those yet, but I am kind of excited about The Weight of Cold Things. That book is definitely a psychological thriller, and it's about a Wyoming deputy sheriff, and part of the book takes place in Wyoming. And I've spent time in Wyoming, and I just love it there. I just think it's the most beautiful state. And the other part of the book takes place in Dead Horse, Alaska, which is like middle of nowhere. It's literally like on the ends of the earth, um, near the Beaufort Sea and the Arctic Circle. And it's a really, really interesting outpost that has mainly been used for oil production. I mean, but there's a lot that has happened up there since like the 1970s, and I created a story that ties Wyoming to Dead Horse, Alaska, and the main character Gretchen Gooding, she's up in Dead Horse, Alaska, looking for her missing boss, the sheriff of in Jackson, Wyoming. He's missing, and she goes looking for him there, and she finds a part of her past. She finds a part of herself there, and a lot of scary things that she would have liked to just leave buried in the ground. So yeah,
Mm.
that's the weight of cold things, and I'm excited. It's not ready for readers yet, but it's going to be once it gets there.
I love that. Like, thank you for kind of giving us a walkthrough of it. That's really exciting. And, that at least it's not that far off. So by the time you listen to this,
Right.
guys, I mean, yeah, just got to stay up to date with it. It's coming sooner than we think. So check
Yep.
that out. And in the meantime, we have your whole trilogy too to check out and look forward to and, get immersed in the world of Lisa, right? So where's the best place for people to get connected and get in touch with you in case, just to stay up to date with these releases and also to learn more about your books, where can they head to?
They can head to my website, lisatowles.com, Towles, or they can find me on Linktree, Linktree/author Towles. That has basically all my links on there. It has my website, all my social media accounts. I'm very active on TikTok, Instagram, and a little bit less active on Facebook and Twitter X. And it also has links to my email and my consulting site. And yeah, I think that's the best place.
Well, hey, there you have it. Guys, we're going to put the links in the description box of this podcast today. So click over, get connected, and stay in the know. Um, Lisa here has gone through an amazing journey, and here she is living her best life with her passion for writing. And there's a lot of exciting things for us to learn from in terms of true crime. And as we begin to wrap up today, I guess I'm curious to know if any audience members out there are inspired about this genre in particular, crime, right? Um, what are some things they should keep in mind as they dabble in it? Maybe if they're trying to follow any footsteps, anything that maybe was more challenging for you that you wish you knew when you first got started. What do you think?
Hmm. So many things that I wish I knew before I got started. When I wrote my first book when I was 20, which was a long time ago, a really long time ago. And that book is totally not publishable, but it was really good practice. And I guess if I have one piece of advice that I wish I followed, is I wish I allowed the first draft of my books to not be any good and to be okay with that. I wish that I was able to resist the urge to edit and perfect and refine and polish the first draft, because I think the first draft is such an important time to just let creativity run wild, to not follow rules of grammar and sentence structure and plot, and to just let the story kind of explode out of you and go where it wants to go. And then the editing and the polishing and kind of marketing and market insights to figure out where it's going to fit in the market, all of that can come later. I think allowing myself to have and enjoy creative freedom is so terribly important, and I didn't really do that. So I'm doing that now, and I teach other authors how to do that, but that's what I wish I knew when I was first starting.
Understood. I totally get that. But at the end of the day, I think, the main message you can hold on to is to kind of keep that passion, is what it sounds like. Is that correct? To kind of just keep that idea, not to let other things kind of get in the
Right.
way in a big
Right.
sense there. Absolutely. Yeah. So, hey, I think that applies to all types of writing too. It'd be like crime or, whatever, right? If you're interested in it, if you have a passion, you have an idea, then don't stop. Keep going. I love that. Well, Lisa, this has been a really insightful conversation. I think we've learned a ton about your book, your upcoming books, and of course, some great writing tips. So it's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate you coming on. I think people have learned a ton.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate your insightful questions, and it's been such an honor to be on here.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you coming on too. And again, guys, click on the links in the description box of this podcast. Check out more of Lisa's work. Lots of upcoming exciting things in the future. So go ahead and do that. And in the meantime, check out her latest series as well, all in the description box. So in the meantime, just keep writing, keep leading, and keep inspiring. We'll see you next time on the Authors on Mission podcast.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or a leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.